Hi there. Gosh, it's the most wonderful day. It's a bit overcast, but it's calm. It's quite cold, but it's okay at the minute. And fortunately, the wind is pretty calm as well because I've forgotten the SIM card for my microphone. So I'm going to be relying purely on the cameras and software to take out any really annoying noises. But so well, let's just hope for a really good day. And I'm on a bit of a field that I've done a couple of times. It is quiet, but I just got a feeling about doing it really slowly. And because I haven't done it very often, I may have missed stuff. And I've found a crappy Roman coin. So crappy, I can't see anything on it. I think I can see a vague emperor on that side with a radiate crown. It's probably a barbarous coin. Not too exciting. But then this. Now, there are lots of moulds in these fields. I've talked about them loads of times. But it does mean I think that stuff is being brought close to the surface. Now, this sounded just like a cartridge. I mean, it was ding, 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 ding. It's not. It's a hammered coin. Now, I don't think it's a particularly early one. And it's quite a good size. It's a bit clipped. Let's just see. Is it Elizabeth? We'll soon find out because it'll say Regina. There it is. Regina. Well, look, the legend. The legend is fabulous, as is quite often the case in her coins. Can't see much on the face, but I think that's because it's been rubbed out rather than through general wear of the coin itself, because the legend is absolutely mint. I mean, it's one of the best legends I've seen ever on a Tudor coin or Elizabethan coin. I can see 1582 quite clearly, and I'm not sure of that denomination. I don't think it's a sixpence. Is it a half groat, or is it a groat? Could be fourpence. But either way, just a lovely coin. I'm going to put that in a special pocket. I don't want that scratching anymore. But wow. Well, that's a really lovely start, and a bit of a surprise because it was close to the surface. It was only really 2 or 3 inches down. Someone asked me, please can I see you putting your clods back in? And I said, well, ow, there's a thistle on that. I said, why, do you want to criticise me? Feeling rather defensive for various reasons about not doing it properly. He went, no, I don't detect. I want to see how you do it. So that's basically what you do. Fill it nice and firmly. I personally don't worry about all that mud on top. That's not going anywhere, and there's loads of moulds around. But as long as you seal the hole itself, you're all right. You're good to go. Well, this might not look like much. In fact, from there, oops, I thought it was a buckle, like that. But it's rounded on the other side. Now, I think that, and only because I found them before, and I've been told, is actually quite exciting because that is the one of the sides, I think, of a Saxon brooch. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how they work. I think the cruciform went, from north to south like that, as it were, and east to west, rather west to east, like that. And I think these were little bits that joined it all together. I'll show you a photograph. Now, when we go back to headquarters, I'll show you what I mean. If we go back to headquarters. Well, that's very, very, very punchy and high-pitched. Very close to the surface. That doesn't bother me in the slightest. There's so many moulds in these fields. They're pushing stuff right up. Just on the top there. My God, this machine never ceases to amaze me with these tiny harness rings. They sound like big lead plates, quite honestly. I'm not sure if the day is, if it doesn't want to let you know it's nice and round and old. My God, it has been a tough day. 3 hours have passed, believe it or not, since I found that Elizabethan coin. I found a couple of things since. I think I found another little Saxon wrist clasp, I'll show you in a minute. And a couple of very crappy Roman coins, that's it. But I am doing quiet areas, I'm having quite a nice time just chilling out. But this, now, this machine sometimes, this was deep. Full pinpointer, just a sharpish signal, but so faint. And it's a huge hammered coin. I haven't cleaned it up yet, but look at the size of it. Now I think this is a sixpence size. I don't know who it is yet. It's got a very Tudor shield on one side, and I can see, is that where the date should be? It's massive. I think it's Charles. I think I can see Carolus on the shield side. It's funny, isn't it? It does make it all worthwhile. It was all worthwhile anyway today because I was actually having a very nice think. But it was a very long think. Let's have a look. Who are you? Oh, look at that. Isn't that... My God. Well, look. I think that's Charles I. It's a Charles I shilling, I think. And I've never found one of these. What a whopper. Spice. Spice Girls. I'm not going to rub that anymore, but my God, have I given it a clip there? Possibly. But look at that. Wow. Wow, well, that just makes it all worthwhile because that's a big hammered coin in seriously good condition. And it's heavy. It's a proper weighty one. I can't remember when the first milled coins came in. I think with Charles II. And perhaps this is Charles II, but even though I don't think it looks like him, I think it's Charles I. We'll soon find out, my God. Well, let's go to headquarters. We'll have to with this. Let's go. Hi there, and welcome to headquarters to have a quick look at these incredible coins and to ID them live, as it were, because if you look at this one, I haven't really even got round to cleaning it properly. And that brings me, I had a comment very recently. Someone said, can we give you a cleaning brush? Can we send you a little brush, please, so that you can clean your finds properly in the field? And actually, that's extremely kind. I can't remember exactly who it was, but please forgive me. But if I get a cleaning brush, it means I'm going to probably have to get a girly spritzer and a coin pod and a trowel and all sorts of things. And one thing about the way I detect, I like to detect really, really light. I've got so much camera equipment I've got to lug around with me these days, with tripods and sound and cameras and all the rest of it. I've got a sort of bag full of the stuff. And I really don't want to have to start carrying around more and more kit. And the other thing, obviously, is that if I find something good, you'll see it here properly, cleaned up and everything. So I don't need to waste time on the field cleaning stuff. I hardly have enough time to dig, let alone actually to really pause and clean things on the field. And it's more fun to get back and you get more excited about what you might have if you leave it till later. So thank you very much. No brush, thank you, but very kind offer, and I think I'll still leave my cleaning of the finds till I get back. Anyhow, this coin. Oh, and one more thing quickly. Yes, the little Saxon knob or nodule or whatever they call them. I don't know. I haven't done enough research. And this one as well, I found this quite recently. This is beautiful. It looks like it was made yesterday. It's silver or pewter or something like that. It looks too sort of perfect to be any good. But if you look in Hattat, this is just the visual guide of all his brooches. Let's just whiz quickly to the Saxon bit, and you will see, there you go, some Saxon brooches. I'm not sure if it's the exact one, don't have time to do it properly, but if you look at the sort of the bits on the top there and on the sides of brooches like that, you'll see that that's what they are. And this one, for example, let's put it next to that one. You'll get an idea of what they are. So they look a bit unassuming, don't they? But that's what they are. The size to Saxon brooches, and here we go, quite early ones too. I mean, they're sort of 5th to sort of 7th, 8th century, I think. So that's really two really lovely finds. But this coin, okay, quickly, because we're running out of time already. It's a Charles II shilling. I know that because of the very obvious 12 behind his head. It's absolutely beautiful. It has got a little bit of a scrape there. Maybe that was a spade, maybe not. I don't know. But when it comes to coins like these, I rely pretty much on this one, Spink. Now, I know you know how to use reference books, so I'm not teaching you how to use one of these, but there's a few bits and pieces which might come in handy. Firstly, don't use this for Roman and Celtic coins necessarily, especially not Roman. It's absolutely useless. It doesn't intend to be a book on Roman coins, but for anything sort of post-Roman, it's brilliant. I don't suppose there's an awful lot which is out there which doesn't come into here. It's all obviously separated by monarchs, etc., and you get gold coming first under each one, then silver, then the copper and the bronze. At the beginning of each monarch, you've got a little bit about him, a little bit of history, which is brilliant. And the other thing which you've got to remember is that the size in the book is the exact size of the coin, which is very handy when it comes to denominations. Do bear in mind, especially with this threepence, you'll see that if there's a bit of clipping in your coin, it's going to look a bit smaller. But here we go. Now let's do this with the Charles. Now there's several things which I noticed very early on, is that the distance between the 12 and the back of his head is different between the issues of these coins. And the bust changes an awful lot, and some of the early ones he's even on a horse and not the bust. So that's something to start with. I don't have a date on these. I don't think most of these necessarily had dates. They had mint marks, which we'll come to in a minute. But very quickly, it looks quite like that could be a second milled issue there. That's quite similar. Definitely the same size shilling. But, and I had a little look earlier, I've got a feeling it's a Group E 5th Aberystwyth type. That's my gut feeling. Now I'm going to put this on the detecting hub in a minute, and they'll probably tell me it's something completely different, and I'll update you later on in the video as to exactly what it is. But there are no dates on these coins, so we go to the beginning of it, and there you've got the mint marks. Now, when in my old age, I need one of these days. The mint mark, I think, on this one is a sunburst, and I can see the sunburst there, 120, 120, 645 to 646. And that, you know, so very quickly, providing you've got a bit of knowledge, if you have no idea what your hammered coin is, you're going to struggle because there's just too much to go on with, especially when it comes to the short crosses and some of the early long crosses, etc. as well. They can be really complicated. And that's when you definitely do need the detecting hub information below, because they're brilliant. They'll help you. So that's that one. And then very quickly, this Elizabeth coin, which is absolutely lovely as well. The bust, as often is the case with Elizabeth, is a bit rubbed out. I'm not sure if that's to do with just use or whether it's something to do with the Reformation when they wanted her head off. I just don't know. It's very clearly 1582, and as I said at the time, lovely legend, less good on the face. And this is where this book's quite handy, because if I look, too big to be a half groat and it's too small to be a groat. So as I thought, it must be a threepence. And if I look here through all the threepences, here's something which looks very similar. And if I look at the date, I can see that there was an issue, 5th issue, 1578 to 1582, which is this one, penny 2575. And if I look, sorry, threepence 2573, and if I line them alongside that, that's pretty good. It's very slightly bigger than the one in the picture, but that's because it's not clipped at all. Therefore, the one in the pictures looks like it's been a bit clipped. So those are those two coins, and that's basically, in a nutshell, how you should be using your Spink. Have an idea about what you've got before you use it. And thank you very much for listening to all that, and let's go back to the fields. Well, that's what I like to call a real buzzer with this machine. And it's a tiny little Roman coin. Well, that's quite an interesting one. It's got an interesting helmet on it. I think it looks like a radio of sorts. And it's the sort of thing I would associate with it being a 4th century one in its size. But I think it's just very clipped. I don't think that is 4th century. I think that's much earlier. I think that's a 3rd century one. And by the look of the god on the back, it is as well. That's quite an unusual coin, I think, actually, because, I mean, is it silver? Is it a tiny silver denarius of sorts? Just don't know. Could well be. Because, well, I'm not going to bang on about it now. Let's we'll have a look at it at headquarters when we go back. Well, that's another really buzzy one. But I love these buzzers. If they're very, very low sounding buzzers, it could well be foil or very, very small thin silver. But if there's a high buzzer, that's a bit too low buzzy still. That's going to be iron, I think. Dunno. It's quite long and stretched out. That's deep as well, wow. See what it sounds like with this quickly. Ooh, horrible. It's going to be a horrible iron. Yeah, big iron disc. Heavy big iron disc. God knows what it is. It's big though and old. I think it's the end of a very solid nail or something. That's got age to it. Wow. I think it might be another one. Just wanted to show you that. You may not have heard it particularly well because my mic's not on, obviously. I'll plug my proper thing back in now. I'm not that far away from the last one. And this was just it sounded like that. It's another big hammered coin. Not as big as the last one. And my God, it's just, can't explain it, this hobby. You do 4 hours without finding anything, and then suddenly one after the other pretty much. Okay, well look, it's another, I think this is another Tudor one. Don't think this is Charles. Well, having said that, yeah, I think it is. It's Carolus again. Nope. No. I think, no, it's Elizabeth. It's another Elizabeth coin. That is a sixpence. I thought that was a beard. It's not. It's her ruff, I think. Well, we could see by the date, 1591. I'm terrible. That's naughty. I should know that. Should know who the monarch was, but I don't. I'm sorry. Again, that's in lovely condition. Well, my God, a shilling and a sixpence within about 5 minutes of each other. It just goes to show you the very old, so it's quite the obvious thing to say, keep at it, but it does go to show. I mean, I wasn't getting despondent, but it was literally 3 hours without finding anything. But when you're having a nice time, just switch off and think about loads of other stuff. And the wonderful thing about using this machine, I didn't have anything to worry about numbers-wise or graphs or X and Y, nothing. I just used my ears. I never, ever refer to the puck. Some people, I know, they have it in their pocket and have a little look. Unless I'm changing something, which is hardly ever, it doesn't come out of my pocket. And so I can switch off and just think, well, that's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let's go back to headquarters quick. I'll tell you exactly what it is. Right, last one. Again, we know it's Elizabeth. And I can see it's 1591. So here we go. Just to make sure it's a sixpence, I line them alongside a sixpence like that one there. And yep, very, very close. Oh, that's interesting. Milled coinage, 1561 to 71. Didn't know that there were milled coins from Elizabeth. Those are very old. That's something worth looking into. Here we go, 5th issue. Well, it's a later one. 6th issue, 1582 to 1600. And we got the sixpence here, 15s. And I line it alongside. One thing to notice very much with Elizabeth coins is her bust. There's hundreds of different portraits of her, so that can be a bit tricky as well. But here we go. Now that looks like a pretty good match to me. 2578, sixpence, la di da.
If it's in good nick, it's worth 300 quid. You don't need the very latest edition of this, by the way. It's only the prices that probably change a little bit. The coins, unless it's a new coin fan, which is unlikely, don't change at all. So if you don't want to fork out for the very latest edition, then just then just buy a second-hand one. Anyway, so those are those 3 fabulous hammered coins, all found on the same day, and I'm absolutely thrilled. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to all that, and goodbye. That's it. We're not being back to fields, and I will see you next time.